My next guest has an absolutely incredible story. How many of you here are from the world of finance or banking? That's a lot. Now, can you imagine giving it all up for comedy? Right? And that is, in fact, her story. She walked away from a life in the corporate world to basically make people laugh. And it was a punt she took, and now she is one of the world's leading stand-up comedians, also now an actor, a woman of many parts, with multiple Ivy League degrees that she seems to have buried or left behind somewhere in this new universe of stand-up comedy. Please put your hands together for the incredible Sindhu Vee. I want to hear a louder welcome. This is my friend. Okay, look, she's from my city, kind of. She studied in Delhi, so you've got to give a louder welcome applause. You're sitting there, yeah. So,
Hi. So many people.
Banking and bonds to comedy, I know it's the most cliched question. Here's my question. Which is tougher?
Well,
Hold up the mic a bit. Yeah.
okay, what's tougher? I think because I didn't really want to be in finance, but I...
Ever?
No, I was doing a PhD in philosophy.
Then what happened?
अरे बहुत लंबी story है.
थोड़ा छोटा में बताओ.
So what happened is the PhD was taking a very long time. And because it was in it was, it was in America, it takes forever. And then because it was in philosophy, and I'm a Delhi girl, my father is Tamilian, my mother was from UP, it was already shameful that I was doing philosophy.
What did they want you to do? Engineering?
At least do economics, at least. So it was already quite shameful, and they were like, yeah, they would talk about, and people say, what's Sindhu doing? And my mother would say, because she never wanted to say it was philosophy. And so this PhD in philosophy was already a big deal, and it was kind of embarrassing at home. And then I didn't want to do it because it was taking so long. So then I decided that if I stopped doing it, and I was also not marrying any of the boys my mother was introducing me to.
That's the main point. You buried the lead.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was fine to have an arranged marriage because all my cousins had done it, but show me a proper boy. Like I'm 5'10". So I was like, I said to my mother, they have to be taller than me, and I don't want a mustache. She said, you can't have everything. I was like, what do you mean? And so the boys weren't working out, and whatever.
Like, was there anyone who kind of made the mark?
There was one.
What was his name?
We
shouldn't tell.
No, I can't remember. But I thought he was okay. But then his mom called my mom and said I would have to leave my PhD and move to wherever he was a doctor in the United States. And my mother called me and said, you can do your PhD there. And I was like, I'm not leaving University of Chicago on a full fellowship to go to some bamboo town somewhere. To do, and I knew that philosophy degree would fall even further.
Yeah.
So I said no. And so she said, fine. She said, and she kept saying, aise hi tumhara chalega, and you're 24.
Kya karogi?
Nahi, ab to bas budhiya ho ke tumko bas marna hi baki hai. And I was like, I'm 24, mom. Anyway, so what happened was I decided that I should quit the PhD, but I couldn't go back home and be like, I don't have a husband, I don't have a job, I don't have a PhD. I mean, the shame I would have felt, and my parents,
Is this like a Tambram thing, or is this like any Indian home you think?
Why don't you answer? It's pretty much any Indian home. Like sab kuch fail karke you go home, no. So I decided to get a job, but I had never worked abroad. I'd always been a student. So I asked my friends, and they all said, you need a visa. Visa is going to be an issue. You need a visa. So I said, how am I going to get that? Because I had a F1 visa. They said, there's only two kinds of companies that will give you a visa. Consulting firms or investment banks. And I was like, what is an investment bank? Because I literally was a super art student.
Yeah.
So then they explained to me, and there were some MBAs they explained to me, and I was like, fine, I'm going to have to do one of these two. And so I got my friends to help me make a CV. And the CV was,
And by now, how many degrees did you have? Because philosophy PhD is gone.
Is going on. But then I also lied to the university and said, no, if you let me go in public policy, I'll do a PhD there. Because public policy sounds more like some naukri can be had. And so I switched into that department. By then I had I'd done a year at Delhi School of Economics as well. So I call it 2 BAs and 2 master's degrees.
Okay.
But it was just, I now, in retrospect, realize I was just trying to spend time not doing what my mom wanted. Just kept, and because...
And did she want you to get married more than she wanted you to have an economics degree? Like, which was the the bigger one?
Studying.
Padhai. हाँ, वो ठीक है.
And as long as I was studying and I was going to great universities, she was like, अच्छा मैं यहाँ भी लड़का ढूंढ लूंगी, वहाँ भी लड़का ढूंढ लूंगी. But they would never put
Pressure?
marriage before studies.
Okay.
Never. And so then I got a CV and I applied to every consulting firm. And I did all kinds of jugaad to get my CV in front of people and this and that. I applied and I thought consulting firms will take me because no offense to any consultants in the room, but there's a lot of talking. You know, like I have sat with consulting people who say, in this circle, the place to be, and you're like, why are you doing sign language for what you're saying? So I was like, they'll give me a job. It's true, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just stating what I saw. I applied to 18 consulting firms. I got 19 rejection letters. I'm not kidding. Someone heard I was applying and was like, no, don't even send your CV. But weirdly, I got several interviews for research at investment banks. And I'll be honest, there were parts of my CV that were completely made up.
Like
I can work Excel. Spreadsheet. I had no idea what is Excel, but all of my banking friends were like, no, put that you know Excel. So I was like, okay, fine, Excel. Never seen an Excel in my... I used to write XL, like extra large. They were like, no, EX. I had no idea. I had no idea. Oh my God. But you know, there's a phrase in Hindi, especially in UP, marti kya na karti. Like I was doing whatever I could. I got 5 interviews from investment banks, and I got so scared because I thought, oh, now I have to get maths and this and that. And I got 2 jobs in Hong Kong, and I got a job in London, but the London job was more senior. And I remember in the interview, the first round, which was in Philadelphia, there was one, like we sat in a hotel room and these people came and interviewed you, and one lady seemed very sympathetic, so I thought I should tell her the truth. I literally started whispering, I don't know maths. And she was like, sorry? And I'm like, I don't really know anything about banking. And she was like, ha, 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 ha. Like she thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
I thought she'll save me and say, you know, do HR or nothing.
Yeah.
And I got 3 jobs, so I came to London to become a banker. That's what happened.
I mean, that story... That story... Hey, by the way, could we get the mics in the aisle for the audience? Because I'm sure they have things to say.
You can do it loudly.
If they want to heckle, I'm not... Okay, so here's my question.
And by the way, just
you
to
didn't
stop.
answer. What is tougher, comedy or banking?
Banking was harder because it wasn't my thing. I was just doing it out of like sheer survival.
Okay.
And when I became a banker and told my mother, she said to me, she was delighted. She said, "Theek hai, you will die single but not poor." She was so happy. She was so happy, and you know, it kind of erased all the other stuff.
But tell me, is it not at all different now, this pressure to get married? Is it just as it was?
You know, I have nieces in India now, and it's literally in one generation, it's been wiped out.
Yeah?
In my opinion, among families like, you know, 'cause listen, India is not one monolith. You
Yeah,
know
of
this.
course, of course.
If you talk about the big cities and the families where you could compare to how I grew up, my parents were professionals, I think it's completely been wiped out. Like, no one is going to their 21-year-old and saying, ab bas, shadi kar lo, bahut saavli ho. You know, that's the kind of thing I heard growing up my whole life.
Did people comment on the color of your skin?
My mother, she was from UP, she was so fair. And she used to always say ki hi. Her sisters used to come over, my mausis, who I love, and say, Sindhu ke features bade achhe hain, lekin hi, bichari kali reh gayi. And which was crazy, because my dad is like Tamilian. He was like super dark. And I've said this on stage before. Are there any Tamilians here? Yeah. You know, Appa was so dark that Tamilians would see him and say, Pa, yanna karp. You know, to translate.
You have to translate
it's
this
like,
now.
oh my God, look at Captain Midnight over there. He's so dark. So how my mother expected me to be super fair, I don't know.
But how have you learned to laugh at this and convert it into material to make other people laugh?
I think because, Barkha, when I was growing up, I went to very good schools, girls' schools, co-ed schools in India. Every girl heard something about her appearance and it was linked to her prospects in life. Sorry, I didn't realize it. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was being singled
Yeah.
out. I felt like all my girlfriends, something about them would be brought up, either positive or negative, often
But
about their
you
marriage.
became this hugely successful comedian actor. There are girls who get left behind because of this complex.
Oh, yeah, and I think for sure, and I felt unattractive pretty much all through my 20s. I think what happened with me was that because my parents never said marriage comes before studies, I sort of achievemented myself out of my kind of dagmagatawa self-esteem when it came to my looks.
Yeah.
And I will say it's very hard if I had stayed back in India, I don't know how it would have worked. I just happened to get a scholarship to come here.
Why do you feel that it may have been
Because when I
different?
came here, everyone was like, oh my God, look at your tan. Here, it was like, seriously, I'm 5'10" and dark. In 90s India,
that sounds like a model to me.
Now, India mein who was then modeling at 5'10" and dark? Like literally nobody. So the point is, I think some things happened that helped me put it in the rear view. But I think India is different now, as in it's at least acknowledged that that's not something you say.
Sure.
Do you know? Yeah, it is.
Anyone here who's been through this, something similar, relatable?
Yeah.
You want to stand up? You're next to the mic. Yeah. Is there a mic there? Yeah. Go for it.
Hi, Sindhu. I'm Padma from South India. And like you, I'm also was married to an Englishman. He passed away. But I had a very similar experience to you. Yeah. I could study as much as I wanted. Same story, PhD, keep going, then come abroad and make a name for myself. And then they'll call you back, And then look at her, you should have done like her. Same story. Yeah.
And how have you dealt with it?
How did you deal with it? You had to be better than everybody else. You have to be one up on the men and the women back home.
Does that get, thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that get exhausting?
I think what was exhausting in retrospect again was that it wasn't enough to be good. You had to be first.
Yeah.
You had to be first.
Yeah.
And I remember my mother, and again, I bring up my mother a lot because Mommy and I were very close, and she was very funny. For sure, if I'm funny at all, it's because of her. But she had this very funny way of saying incredibly, ridiculously not nice things. She said to me when I started comedy, she was like, "Tum TV pe kab aogi? When will you be on TV?" And I said, "Why?" She said, "Look at Oprah." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "What do you mean? She's still doing something. She also likes to be on." And then she said, and I say this, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but I gotta be honest. She said to me, "Wo to tumse bhi zyada sanvli hai."
Oh my God.
And I was like, "How can you bring that up?" And she said, "No, look, she's a billionaire. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this conversation." You always had to be first. You had to somehow make a mark no matter what. The thing that I really wish, I mean, you can't change the past, but the ability that I wish I had seen sooner so that I could have believed in myself a little bit more earlier is that you weren't allowed to do something out of the joy of it. If you were doing it, it was giving you joy, then what? Which is crazy because in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, they're saying follow your passion and you'll get where you have to go. Somehow all of our parents only remember Bhagavad Gita when it's time to criticize us. But when it's time to actually look at their behavior, they don't remember it at all. Do you know what I mean? So I think that was one thing, was always, what are you doing with it? So what, you're doing a PhD, but like, are you doing it at Harvard? Like, what? It was always like that.
What happened to that PhD?
Arey, wo to gal gayi. I moved to public policy, told them I would do a PhD, fat lie, got the job, and then left. But because it was a big deal job and I was the only one in the public policy school at that year who'd got it, they also became happy.
So I think everybody associates you with like comedy and laughs, but I don't know that it's as well known that you went through your own struggle with depression.
Oh, yeah.
And somewhere that struggle, interestingly, one random evening leads to a comedy club, if I'm getting this right.
Yeah, sort of with some years of gap in the middle.
With like I'm compressing it. But,
yeah.
And that's how, this is not like a choice. You experience it, you're battling your own demons and depression, and then you end up in being the amazing Sindhu Vee. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I think when it came to depression and all the anxiety, so basically I was in finance, I had a baby, my first child, and I loved my job. So even though I found it difficult by then, I mean, because I was in sales, so I got to meet a lot of people and do a lot of chatting. And so then I took my full maternity leave, and then I went back to work. But what happened there, again, was that I was so fixated on the achievement of being a banker and earning money and having achieved something, that being just a housewife felt like a failing. But the thing is, I used to miss my child a lot.
Yeah.
I used to go in the bathroom and cry. Then I would call my mother, and she would say, like, sabko apne bachchi ki yaad aati hai, go and work. So you'd be like, okay, so you would think it's about me. But I think what happened was, and I assume there are women in the audience who'll understand, when you become a mother, and you want to be with your child, and your identity gets really scrambled eggs. Because up until then, you're an achieving woman, you're this person in this job, that's what you're doing, and then you have a child, and a lot of things start seeming less important, but those things are the things that gave you name,
But you think
status.
you think dads go through that too?
I mean, I don't know.
Please clap.
I don't know if dads go through that, because I don't know what dads feel like when they become dads. I also think that by and large, the requirement for men to stay home with their kids is at least marginally less. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to make big sweeping statements, but I think for me, and I think for a lot of moms, you want to be a mom, but then you also want to go to work, but then you miss your kid, and then if you're not working, then who are you? And that really scrambled my brain, because as Padma had said, my entire life had been about achievements.
Yeah.
And then being at home with a baby is not considered an achievement. It's like, now you're just a housewife. That was hard. And so instead of thinking about it and saying, no, I'm someone outside of my achievements, I went and had a mini nervous breakdown. Because, no, it's fine, you can laugh. It's quite funny the way I said it. I think that was quite funny. Anyway, I literally went cuckoo. Like I was on the trading floor and the floor was moving, and I was like, I haven't even had bhang, what's going on? But, and I had to take a break. They were like, you need to go home. And I think it was that it took all of that for me to be able to separate myself from my achievements and just rest in the fact that I was just a person with a baby who wanted to be with the baby. And I was lucky that I didn't have to work.
Yeah.
And that my husband was in finance. And also he was very chill. He was like, bro, are you all right? Like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to. I think that was very hard. And then staying home for many years, I would say 2 or 3 years, I felt like I'd failed. I'd crashed out of banking. I didn't have an income. I was just a housewife, but I couldn't do better. So those were some crazy years. But I will say, for anyone who's ever felt anxious or depressed, first of all, it happens to a lot of people, and you must ask for help. You must ask for help.
And thank you for sharing this in front of such a big audience, and not even to count the sort of millions of people watching this online. I do have time for one more question. I'm sure many of you have seen Sindhu on stage. Why don't I give the backbenchers a chance? But you need to come to the mic. Come to the mic. Go for it.
Hi, Sindhu. I have two questions for you.
Please.
About your internal evolution. The first one is, how has stand-up comedy changed you as a human being in terms of how you view the world? And secondly, when was the last time you felt you had grown as a comedian or as an artist? Not external validation, not clips at the Apollo, but when did you feel that you have gone a level up, and why? What was it that
And
made you
before
feel
she answers that, that is somebody who's also in comedy, Papa CJ from India. We can give him a big round of applause.
And by the way,
welcome him.
Yes. Not only is Papa CJ a big comedian from India, he's one of the very early mentors that I had in comedy. So these are some loaded questions. Let me tell you guys, these are some loaded questions. So the first question, CJ, you said was, how has it changed me as a person to do comedy? I think I feel very confident in saying that I am one of those people that has been lucky enough to, in this lifetime, figure out what I'm here to do. And I know it sounds like such a big thing, but honestly, this is my calling. And so once you know that, you can sit in your space much more chilled, you know? I'm not, whether I get a movie or don't get a movie, or win an award or don't win an award, or have the best gig in the night, it doesn't matter, because I know I'm in the right place. So that's been a huge thing. And I never had that, because it was always what achievement. So that's that. The second question about when did I last, well, very, very good question, because a few nights ago, and you'll understand this. So I'm writing a new show. Please come to the Work in Progress anytime, by the way. And it's going on tour next year. And there's a little bit that I wasn't sure was working. Some days it would work, some days it wouldn't. Yeah. And I woke up at night and I was like, oh, this is the formation. And then I started scrambling around, and I wasn't home. My husband and I were traveling. I started scrambling around for a pen. The first thing I did was smack my husband in the face. He was like, what's happening? And I was like, no, I'm looking for a pen. And because you forget by the morning, you think you'll remember. And I wrote that down. And it was so important to me to get those words. It may not stay in the show, but like, mujhe khujli mach rahi thi. I couldn't, I was itchy. I had to get it out. Then I feel like, okay, I'm probably actually a comic.
Yeah. What is the least funny thing you've heard about yourself and the most funny?
The least funny thing I've heard about myself. Yeah. You know, the other day someone said, and I don't really read comments on Instagram unless somehow they get put in front of me, like people write them on a story and send them to me. Someone said, look at this auntie. Look at this auntie who grew up in India thinking she can tell jokes for money to explain to people what India is like. Bro, the post was on mangoes. Like, I don't understand. I was like, why is this funny? I was explaining how good mangoes in season.
And you have a mango dal that's famous.
Yeah, and I love mangoes.
Yeah.
So I was like, you can't get langda here, you can't get this, but chalo, dasheri to mil raha. Like that kind of thing. And this person decided to go down that road. So that was not funny.
Right.
Also, auntie, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And what was the thing?
And the most funny?
Oh, man. The most funny thing I've heard about my comedy is my son going to university and saying to me, and he's totally British, they're born and raised here, looking at me and saying, mate, I'm the mitochondria of your comedy career. Now I'm going to uni. What are you going to do? That made me laugh so much, because I didn't know he knows the word mitochondria. I was like, that is impressive.
So I want to end by asking you about identity. Right? As your son said, so much of your material is derived, I don't know, fictionalized or otherwise, from your family, from your parents, from your husband, your children. And I think somewhere you said that, India is just part of you. When you come on stage and you speak to an audience, you carry that whole big fat suitcase called India with you. In terms of identity, how do you see yourself?
Oh, I'm Indian, for sure. There's absolutely no doubt. And I would say in terms of my identity and how I carry it, you said it's a big fat suitcase. My Indian identity, because you never think you're carrying your arms, legs, eyelashes, nose, teeth.
It's just part of you.
That's my India. That's what I'm carrying.
That's beautiful.
So that's what I'm carrying. I'll always be Indian, no matter where I live, what I do. And that doesn't have to take over everything.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's like the sky. Whatever you do under the sky is still there. It doesn't have to take up, more space than that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sindhu Vee. But before we let you go, suspense hai, suspense.
Bataiye.
You don't have to do anything. We have another legend coming on stage. Sindhu's spoken about all the sort of, her journey in comedy. But there are women who came before Sindhu, who came before me, and they had to fight a lot harder. And to honor Sindhu Vee as our change maker today, I want to welcome on stage legend Meera Sayal.
Amazing.
Can we have a big round of applause? Hello and welcome. And 1 second, may I have the award for Sindhu on stage, please? Okay, so this is what we do at We the Women. It's an intergenerational conversation because women who came before us made it possible for women today to be who they are, and we've got to open the door for women who come after us. May I please ask Meera Sayal to present to Sindhu Vee the Changemaker of the Year award. Big round of applause, guys. Come on, show them some love. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. But can you leave the mic? Oh, she has a mic. Okay.